So what's up, everybody? We're back. Phase 3, the final phase of exploring the whole J6 narrative. I want to give my disclaimer. I'm not a lawyer. I'm not an investigator. All this information is simply on the internet, and we're just discussing it so we can figure out what is going on and draw our own conclusions. Okay, this is not an effort to share any dis and misinformation, so please do not remove my channel. Now, with that being said, we're just checking everybody's common sense by presenting some anomalies that took place. Because remember, this whole J6 narrative is so important that they are trying to remove a president from a ballot over it because they said, you know, this was an insurrection. Now, in phase 1, we saw there's a huge difference and a disconnect from what they're describing this insurrection to look like and be like versus some of the other major historical, events that took place in our country, like 9/11 and, of course, Pearl Harbor. When you look at those three events and look at some of the details and visuals, you can obviously see that, wow, they really put J6 up there on a level it should not even be on. Okay, these people went back to work 2 hours later. That's odd. Okay, the video footage looks totally different. You would say, if I had to live through one of those, give me the J6 experience. I sure enough wouldn't want the 9/11 experience. I wouldn't want the Pearl Harbor experience. I'll take J6 for 1,000, please. But they want us to think that this was the greatest attack on the homeland. So we better explore and make sure that they're accurate and not using this as a predicate to abuse their power. So let's get into phase 3, which begs the question, were the feds or other agencies involved? What's going on, America? Welcome to Kevin's Corner, where I try to make some sense out of nonsense. Before we get into this video, I need y'all to do me a favor. Hit that like button, share my videos. Please make sure you subscribe. Make sure your notification buttons are turned on to all. Subscribe to my alternative channel, just in case YouTube give me the slip or something. You'll know how to find me. Don't forget to check me out with all the podcasts and follow me on Rumble in the Jungle. All the links are listed below. If you want to donate to my channel, feel free. Those links are below as well. Now, with no further ado,
welcome to my party, we're just getting started.
This video is brought to you by Aura. Have you ever Googled yourself and was shocked to find out that your personal information was listed on one of those public listing sites? Yeah, man, you don't want that. Because, I've been there before, where I'm sitting there thinking to myself, how in the world did my name pop up there? How's my address on this site? What's going on with this crap? I'm a little concerned, but what can you do about it? And while we're on that note, I don't know about you, but most of the time I keep my cell phone on silent or keep it off because I'm constantly getting bombarded with nothing but robocalls and stuff like that. And they're getting clever. They're getting real clever, see? And now they'll even try to match the area code, hoping that you get caught slipping and answer that bad boy just because you're thinking to yourself, well, obviously this is the same area code. This must be one of my cousins or something. And then you answer and they say, hello, it's Kevin Eller. If you don't know my last name, if you can't pronounce it, then you ain't my friend. You trying to get me, man. You done set me up. How did you get this number? So if you're constantly getting spam phone calls to the point where you don't even answer your phone anymore, well, it's time to try Aura. Now I bet you're wondering, how can Aura help me? Well, see, the system itself, man, is all messed up. Data brokers are making a fortune selling your information to robocallers, spammers, and others who want to learn more about you, like where you live. What's up with that? But hey, don't worry about it, because Aura can identify data brokers exposing your info and submit opt-out requests on your behalf. See, brokers are legally required to remove your info if you ask them to. However, they're not going to go quietly in the night. They're going to make it super hard for you to do that. So instead of jumping through hoops, why don't you just let Aura handle it for you? Aura also does much more to protect you and your family from online threats that you can't see, and those are the worst kind. It's really easy to set up, so you don't have to download several different apps to get things like, parental control, antivirus, VPNs, password management, identity theft, insurance, or more. And you get everything at one affordable price. Let Aura keep you safe online so you can focus on other things with peace of mind. You can either let people continue to exploit and profit off of your private information, or you can go to aura.com to start your 2-week free trial. Also linked below in the description. So hurry up, go there, click the link right now. All right, so now let's get back to this video. Now, all we're going to do is just simply explore some footage and come to some conclusions. Starting off with this.
or pretty early morning, like 5 a.m. I guess, or 5:30, and I was talking with this cop, and we were just like talking about everything, and I asked him like, most of the people actually have the feeling that police didn't do enough to stop the protesters or didn't do anything, and he was like, yeah, I can actually understand why they say that when I see the pictures. And himself, he was kind of angry at like his superior, because he told me that on Wednesday morning at 10 a.m. he and his like coworkers were told to go home, which he was very surprised about, because of course Trump had not started his speech. We knew that there was going to be some huge protest on the Capitol that may or might turn violent, so he was extremely surprised. But he went home, and then he saw that the situation turned bad, and he said that he wasn't called back into work, that he did come because he felt like he had to, but that no one called him back. So yeah, so he was very surprised about that they were not like requested to be at work when such a big event was going to happen.
So this French reporter who was interviewing a police officer that day was told by the police officer that they were told to stay home. Now, who has the power and the authority to do that? Could it be the mayor? Could it be Nancy Pelosi? And why would they want less police officers there during such a monumental event? I mean, all of the potential threats that could have taken place, and then Trump comes out and offers 10 to 20,000 National Guardsmen, and they turn them down and then tell other police officers to take the day off. So this police officer decided, I'm going to go in anyway because he's watching news, and he's like, this is crazy. So now my question is, if people didn't want this to happen, you would think they would have more police on hand. And then the police that were on hand feels this way about the situation.
They set us the up. That's what they did.
They set us up.
They set us up. They set up 64. Oh, absolutely. And then they asked y'all to come 2 hours later. They
2
set
hours
us
later.
They needed everybody right away. Nah, right away. They set us the up. So now we ain't got we ain't got no mother. They set us the Take this mother.
So even the police officers that legitimately came in 2 hours later felt like they were set up for failure. Didn't have them there earlier, and the cops that were there earlier looked like they just went ahead and opened up the gates and told everybody to come in, and, you know, walked around with their arms around people, showed them where to go and all of this stuff, gave them escorts, things like that. And then the cops that showed up late realized that, oh, why did they give us the morning off? They call us in 2 hours late. I feel like I was set up. But surely they wouldn't have been set up by the people that is in charge of keeping our society safe and keeping the Capitol safe. They surely wouldn't have been set up by them, would they? There's no way in the world that these people would have ever done something like this. So we better bring in Christopher Wray, who maybe could go ahead and give us a little more clarity on this.
Congressman, as I'm sure you can appreciate, I have to be very careful about what I can say about when
Even now, because that's what you told us 2 years ago.
May I finish?
Oh.
About when we do and do not, and where we have and have not used confidential human sources. But to the extent that there's a suggestion, for example, that the FBI's confidential human sources or FBI employees in some way instigated or orchestrated January 6th, that's categorically false.
Wow. Now, he stepped out and did what the one lady, when she was talking to Ted Cruz, didn't do, which is he just denied it immediately. The other lady just kept saying, I can't answer that. I can't answer that. So Christopher Wray is like, no, I'm going to go ahead and say it's categorically false. Well, does the evidence show that it's false? Because here's somebody with a camera on who is encouraging people to do something. Let's see. Oh, he's saying drain the swamp. Why does he have a body cam on? I've never seen Trump supporters walking around with that on. And look at this. Oh, he's an officer.
Help them up.
Help them up.
Push them up. Push them up.
Push them up. Shouldn't he be also charged with encouraging and inspiring an insurrection? I mean, just because he's an undercover police officer, I didn't know that when you're undercover, you're there to actually participate in the crime. I thought you go undercover to prevent the crime from happening. You don't sit back and say, all right, Captain, tomorrow they're planning an insurrection. So instead of us going ahead and stopping it before it starts, we're going to allow it to start and then encourage it and participate in it by saying, help them up. Then we have this police chief that should have been in on the loop, but he wasn't, and he has a whole different take of what took place on J6. Let's see what he had to say.
So, but it does raise, and I don't have the answer to this question, and I hope I don't ever pretend that I do, but it does raise questions about the behavior of some of the people in the crowd who were instigating others to break the law, and who weren't arrested. And, you know, given our facial recognition software capabilities, hard to believe they can't be found. And I would specifically cite a man called Ray Epps, who's now a hero on the left and funded by the Democratic Party, et cetera. But take the politics out of it. What is that? Here you have a guy on camera repeatedly saying, we're going to the Capitol.
We need to go into the Capitol. Into the Capitol.
And he's not in jail when people who didn't go into the Capitol are in jail. What do you make of that?
Again, that's something I actually address in the book. It's funny. There's a lot in here. So my concern with that, and I look at it from a chief of police point of view, is you have somebody that's down, and I believe he's right near the old executive office building on the 5th, the day before January 6th, talking to a group of people, talking about, we have to get into the building. We have to get into the building. And then the next day to see him at what's called the Pennsylvania Avenue Gate. It's one of the two fence lines I had down at the West Front. And he's there, and he clearly sees the banner, the metal crowd control barriers that are up with the signs saying restricted, so he knows that's a restricted area. And he's up there, and you see him lean in, and he whispers in somebody's ear, and he covers his mouth in such a way so you can't read his lips or anything. Whispers in somebody's ear, and that person moments later is attacking my officers. That's suspicious as hell to me. It raised a lot of concerns.
What is that?
And what's interesting is I believe...
and that's verified. The person into whose ear he whispered...
Yeah, I think if you watch the video, you see that, and that person immediately go and start pulling on the gate and start fighting with the officers. And what's interesting is I believe he went on 60 Minutes. And on 60 Minutes, what he said was he went up to the officer and he told that officer, these officers are on our side. Don't hurt these officers. I believe that was pretty much it.
That's what he said. That's the rumor.
But don't hurt these officers. They're on our side. Don't hurt these officers. Well, if that's the case, why would you cover your mouth and not yell it to everybody?
Good question.
Because it didn't seem like that protester was the only one that was possibly going to be hurting the officers. You had a whole bunch of people next to him. Why wouldn't he tell it to the whole group?
I don't know. I know that Epps is being encouraged by partisan Democrats to sue people who raise these questions, but they're fair questions, and I'm going to raise them anyway.
As you should. See, and then we're going to end with Clay Higgins right here, who has an interesting breakdown and take on what he thinks took place on J6. And we're just, food for thought. We just don't want, to be abused when it comes down to them telling us stuff and just, they expect us to just take it for face value. We just got questions. So Tucker, he's saying we should be asking questions about that Bigfoot. Why is he being protected by the FBI and the DOJ? Why isn't he the poster child of the J6 insurrection and all of that stuff? Why was he taken off the J6, most wanted list? These are all questions that everybody should ask. So let's go ahead and see what Clay Higgins then came up with.
But you have to go home now.
Hey, that's
we
true.
have to have peace.
Say
we have to have law and
peace.
order. We have to respect our great people in law and order.
I thought he said
We've
go
identified
and storm
one
the
of those
Capitol.
buses. And know what that means?
What?
It means that's their act. 2 buses, and they had like some kind of discussion or briefing, like the way the military leader would address his troops.
They call it a huddle.
And then they together went to the escalators and up in the Union Station and were gone.
And they were all men.
They were all men in all the Trump regalia.
All
These men were in really good shape. They made comments like, wow, these are real serious Trump supporters, these guys. And it said they all had elbow pads and knee pads.
Stuff that we all wear to Trump
They
rallies.
appeared like they had common equipment, but they were not in uniform. But they behaved in a uniform manner.
Like what? Okay, that's not a behavior of a Trump supporter. Why is that man pulling all of these Trump supporters in the door? In the door. Yeah, you ever seen a Trump supporter do something like that? I haven't. That's odd behavior. What is this? Stop. No, you're pushing us in. Now that's also odd behavior. And what does he have? An earpiece.
To the Capitol.
And look at this. Look at this Trump supporter. Face covered. Walkie-talkie on. Pulling down stuff. Looks like a fit young man who knows exactly what he's there for. So let me understand. He's breaking stuff. He got an earpiece on. His face is covered up. Looks like a very obvious wolf in sheep's clothing. And when confronted by real Trump supporters, what does he do? Blames it on them. You the one broke the window that you just saw me breaking and recording. Me doing it. Yeah, now don't be questioning me, okay? Because some people might get the idea that I'm a wolf in sheep's clothing. So I got my face covered up like this. See, and an earpiece in my ear.
And we intend to get all of that video evidence from Union Station, from the escalators, from the parking lot. We have other eyewitnesses.
Yeah, I want to
much
see
to
that.
the chagrin of everybody that was in those buses and everyone who commanded them to be there. We've identified one of those buses. And you know what that means?
What?
That means that's their because a bus is a serial numbered vehicle. And in America, the change of ownership of a serial numbered vehicle
Is recorded.
documented. So that means we can begin to trace from the original owner of that bus where it was sold and who bought it, and then who it was leased to and where it disappeared.
That's
and then
all I wanna
eventually those buses were removed from the Union Station, and we're going to document all of that.
So you believe that those buses held undercover officers, not informants, correct?
I feel very, very confident that everybody that was on those two buses were FBI assets.
Oh.
And I have a high degree of belief that they were actual FBI agents. And I'm sorry to say, ma'am, my objective conclusion is that senior officials at the FBI were deeply involved there. Did you?
Now, notice we said my objective conclusion, meaning based off of all of the evidence, the clues, things like that, it's hard to just discredit the possibility that our agencies were involved in this. I mean, we all know what a psyop is. We know what a false flag is. These are tactics that these agencies use on other countries and stuff like that. We just didn't think they'd be using it on their own people. And I'm not saying all of the agencies are doing this. I'm not saying everybody in the agency is doing this. But like he has just stated, that it's probably people in the top part of our agencies that are involved in this. Because it's odd that they wouldn't want us to look into this. They want us to just stop right at the narrative that J6 was the worst attack on the homeland. And when we said, well, was it? And we got questions about why these people are being removed from lists, why they were out there saying what they were saying. These are all questions. Shut your mouths. Shut your mouths. We got to get you off the internet so you can't ask these questions, and you're an insurrectionist if you do. So let's go ahead and conclude, because Clay Higgins is going to go back to Raggedy Ray and ask him some other questions about these buses.
Did you have confidential human sources dressed as Trump supporters inside
yes,
the
but I
Capitol on
can't tell you
January
that.
the 6th prior to the doors being open?
Again, I had to be very careful.
It should be a no. Can you not tell the American people no? We did not have confidential human sources dressed as Trump supporters positioned inside the Capitol.
Gentleman's time has expired.
You should not read anything into my
shouldn't?
decision not to share information.
Director Ray,
confidential.
gentleman's time has expired.
Yeah, they want to step in and break that fight up. The gentleman's time has expired. Let's get off that one. So, the answer should be no. But now we find out from somebody who has just come out from under, I guess, maybe a gag order or something. He also was a Capitol Police officer, and he has a different opinion on the J6 situation.
Capitol Police Commander present during January 6 says, quote, "It was not an insurrection." A former Capitol Police lieutenant who was present during the January 6, 2021 incident at the Capitol building and who ordered the House and Senate to be evacuated pushed back hard on critics of then-President Donald Trump and their description of what happened. In an X post on Thursday, the former officer Tariq Johnson noted that he's been saying publicly that January 6 was not an insurrection, but not many people would listen, which was a reference to 2024 GOP presidential contender Vivek Ramaswamy's comments during a CNN town hall event in Iowa a day earlier. Ironically so, no one would benefit more than I if January 6 was an insurrection, as I was the commander that ordered and led the evacuations of the Senate and the House during the J6 breach, after begging former Assistant Chief Yogananda Pittman for permission to do so, as she sat comfortably in the Commander Center, watching the events unfold on CCTV footage, while Chief Stephen A. Sund was obtaining National Guard approval and getting assistance from local law enforcement agencies. His post continued. That's an interesting one that I haven't heard before. Assistant Chief Yogananda Pittman, supposedly sitting comfortably in the Command Center, watching the events unfold. I wonder if that Command Center has something to do with the magnetic doors being unlocked and opened. Remember this very suspicious clip?
Now, this is very concerning to me. So now we got another police officer who said, I've been trying to tell people this wasn't no insurrection for a long time, but they wouldn't listen to me. Why? You would think if they really wanted to get to the bottom of this, they would be interviewing everybody. They would be using all types of people on the J6 committee and not people who are just simply on there so they can push this narrative and cover up all the other exculpatory evidence and video footage and all of that stuff. Why are they trying to silence the people who have a different view of this? So this police officer has been saying that, nah, man, there wasn't no insurrection. It would be easier for me if it was, but instead we got people up in the command center just chilling while we're down here trying to stop this insurrection, and yet somehow this person has the ability to open and close doors. Now, we just saw earlier in my phases and these clips that doors were just opening somehow. Now, we also heard Ray say that don't read into whether, FBI agents encourage this or whatever and blah, blah, blah. And Clay Higgins asked him, were there anybody inside that building dressed like Trump supporters prior to the doors opening? Because the answer should be no. So now we got a video clip of somebody in that building dressed like a Trump supporter that somehow bypassed all those police. Nobody's in the building. And look what he's doing. Okay, a coordinated group attempts to pull and try to open the door from the inside. Door doesn't open. Oh, what does he do? He goes, looks up at the camera, goes back to the door, and here comes another Trump dress supporter, and he points at the door like, go ahead and hit that button, and the button gets hit.
Are you familiar with what a ghost vehicle is? Director of the FBI certainly should. You know what a ghost bus is?
A ghost bus?
Ghost bus.
I'm not sure I've used that term before.
Okay. It's pretty common in law enforcement. It's a vehicle that's used for secret purposes. It's painted over. These two buses in the middle here, they were the first to arrive at Union Station on January 6th, 0500. I have all this evidence. I'm showing you the tip of this iceberg.
Mr. Chairman.
These two buses are painted completely white.
Mr. Chairman.
Point of order.
Point of order. Sure.
Just run over the time.
I understand, but you'll recall that Miss Jackson Lee's been allowed to go 2 minutes before. Now recognize Mr.
May I
Gray.
close this statement, Mr.
No,
Chairman?
I think your time is expired.
This is a very significant hearing, Mr. Chairman.
It is.
And these buses are nefarious in nature and were filled with FBI informants dressed as Trump supporters. And deployed onto our Capitol on January 6th. Your day is coming, Mr. Ray.
Your day is coming. Wow. Now, there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. There are people out there that are simply asking questions, doing their basic investigations. Because if you're going to have an investigation on one end to try to show how dangerous this is, why can't you have an investigation on the other end to ensure that these people who are saying that it is the most dangerous attack on the homeland and the greatest threat and all of that stuff aren't just saying it to abuse their power and to bludgeon their political opponents and enemies? You don't want people to just have that blatant power to where we just accept whatever narrative. You don't want our society to get to a point where we can't question the FBI, we can't question these powerful agencies who are allowed to spy on us, to listen in on us. We can't question the media. We can't question any of these things. I mean, would we be a free country? So if YouTube feels that by me raising these questions are a violation of whatever policies they might have, they're probably also a part of the problem as well. Perhaps maybe they don't want us to ask these questions because they might want to just keep a certain narrative out there as well, especially considering this is the narrative that the left is using to justify why Donald Trump should not be on the 2024 ballot. So now, after all of this evidence I've showed you through phase 1, 2, and 3, what do you think? Do you think this was one of the greatest attacks on the homeland, equal to 9/11 and Pearl Harbor? Do you think that there was no nefarious actors in that audience that participated and blended in, trying to be wolves in sheep's clothing? Do you think that, after all the video clips I just showed you? Do you think that there is no involvement of any type of federal organization that put these people in there and equipped them with earpieces and made sure they were inside the building or was able to communicate to people up top to unlock that magnetic door and things like that? Do you still think that nobody outside of just regular white nationalist Trump supporters participated in this insurrection? Looked like they had a lot of help from the police, a lot of help from some very suspicious people in the audience, encouraging them to go do it and pushing them in and all of that stuff, and committing their time to stand out there for 2 days talking about going to the Capitol and this is where our problems are. A lot of help from people up in the control room, unlocking doors, and police officers escorting people in. Look like they got a lot of help in this insurrection, and we need to get to the bottom of it. Now, God bless you. God bless America. Don't forget, hit that like button, share my videos, follow me on all the other platforms. Support the channel if you want to by supporting my monthly fundraiser. The link to do that is below this video. Check out the merch store. Subscribe. Make sure you're still subscribed and set your notifications to all. And we'll see y'all next time in Kevin's Corner. God bless. Take care.